How's it going, YouTube? Coming today with another video, and today, guys, what the video is going to be deck building post Blazing Dominion. Now, I'm really excited for this video because we're going to be talking about my deck choice for next format. We'll talk about my different deck choices and going step by step through my deck list about why I play the cards that I do, and basically how I go about deck building as well, especially for next format, because next format is going to be so very interesting. I definitely want to hone in on playing things like Phaedralus and Spark. After playing with Phaedralus online, that card is absolutely bonkers, and I think that card is going to be something that you definitely want to have in your deck if you can. So, very excited about this video, and I hope that you enjoy this one because it's going to be a lot of fun. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over in Gem, Cloud, Arlo, Imperium, Dragonshield, RW, MainPhaze, and Grimoire, definitely go and do so down below in the description. Check out METAFY if you want some one-on-one coaching. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so we can hit our goal at 30,000. Now, if we just talk about the main engine here, it doesn't really change too much. You can see some lists playing like Double Mirror, some lists playing 3 Ritual. I like playing 2. I don't really think that you need 3. It is nice to see like Ritual plus the spell, but like if you only open like the spell, it's a really bad brick. Now, one thing that I do want to point out and say is that my friend and teammate Craig, who has played an ungodly amount of Mitsurugi, has done this in the past, and I think that it's very true. It's very funny, and that's if you're playing Mitsurugi and you brick, you want to like hard brick on Mitsurugi, because 1 mirror and 1 ritual, that doesn't play. But 2 rituals a mirror, now you have combo, right? So definitely a very funny view on it, but that is something that is very true. And, you know, there is a lot of builds that are out there that do play the multiple spells, like the 2 mirror, the 3 ritual, but like, I don't really know. I'd rather just focus on like the heavier non-engine, and then if I really find myself without a starter, then I can always add in a 3rd Manju. I can add in a 3rd Aramasa. You can play 7th Tachyon, which is cool for 104 to reveal and then search your Manju. So like there is a lot of ways that you can add consistency, and one of the ways that we add consistency and protection is by adding in some utility, and that's going to be called by Crossout and Prost. No, not every deck is going to be a crossout deck, but the rest of this deck is hand traps, so that definitely feels appropriate to play the crossout, especially the fact that we're playing Phaedralus, we're playing Spark, Impulse, you know, all these very broken cards that you want protection against, because this deck already does really well against things like Fua, right? But you do want to have some kind of protection against things like Droll and Impulse, right? There are other cards that do hurt as well, but those are definitely going to be the heavier hitters here. But 3 utility cards is usually pretty okay, especially if the rest of your deck is literally just hand traps. And I'll show you. We have 18 of them. So we have Ash, Fua, Phaedralus, Droll, Shifter, Impulse, and Spark. Now, depending on the ban list and what happens, Droll and Shifter are always on the chopping block. As you can see, they're already on the ban list, right? So, like, they could be reduced to 0. We don't know yet. But as of right now, this is the hand trap lineup that I want to play. Phaedralus is a card that you really want to spend the time understanding what this card does to the meta. Now, it is not super available for many decks to play it, because it is going to synchro lock you. But if you can play it, or you're playing against somebody who can, this card is extremely potent, and it's something that you really want to make sure you understand, because there's a few targets, and you'll see them in my extra deck here in a minute, but this card just provides an unlimited amount of disruption, it feels like, and it's very, very strong. Same with Spark. Spark works like a canine if you use an effect in like hand or grave, and then it's at any time that you can just like banish a monster. So you can wait till end phase and just like pluck something off the board. So these cards are pretty gnarly into the new format. Just really make sure that you understand what they do and their impact to the format. Now let's have a chat about the sideboard. So Retaliating Sea is a card that has been around for a while, and it's really good into Draco Tail, especially depending on what the ban list does. But it's also pretty good into things like Cool Tune, because of the fact that you can hit Overtake, you can hit Cool Tune Synchro. When we get Overtuning, you can hit that as well. It's also really good in a Striker, and that deck has been popping up a lot. If you Retaliating Sea linkage, it's brutal. That card can't resolve. So it's going to be something that you want to have in your sideboard. It hits quite a lot, and even hits things like Lunalite, right? So make sure that if you can play it, and even if you just have a way to out it after it's on board, that you just have this in your side deck, because this card is going to be extremely good into the new format. Same if you're already playing things like Mitsurugi, right? If you can play the Wosu, then play Wosu. But obviously this card is like super specific. If you can play like Lava Golem or what have you, these are going to be really good cards to play as well. But I really like Wosu, especially if they limit Liger. and then you just have to deal with like the 1. But this card is like super accessible in this deck, so you should be playing it if it's not in your main and your side. I don't really love maining cards like this, especially if you get put going first, or like you know that you're going first, right? So you don't really want to have the opportunity to draw something like this. But having it on the side is still pretty fantastic because it's just going to be ways to go ahead and break boards. Same with Super Poly. I really liked it in the main deck for a while, but I just have it in the side now. You'll see all the targets when we'll talk about this card when we see the extra deck, just because there's so many different targets that you can play for Super Poly. It's kind of ridiculous. This card is going to be the MVP next format. Thrust is going to be pretty impactful next format, especially going first or second. It doesn't really matter, but going first is going to be really good. And we'll talk about those cards here in a moment. But just going over Lightning Storm Duster, these cards are going to rotate back in, especially if they start dealing with Draco Tail on the ban list and becomes a little less popular with things like Flame. So you don't have to worry about it as much. And we're going to start seeing a lot more of like the mass removal. But as for going first with Thrust, we have Purification. Obviously, this is a card that we're going to play in this deck particularly. And then we have D-Ground, which is really good into most matchups right now. This card is broken. But the other one right here is Grisai Prism. And this just says if you have a Ritual, a Tribute Summon monster, or a Fusion monster, neither player can Synchro or Exceed until your opponent's next turn. And then it's also like neither player can attack with Exceed or Synchros, and all their effects are negated. So this card is just like the craziest D-barrier out there, right? So this is a very strong card, and the super rare is like $2 right now. It's 2 printings. One's a rare, one's a super, and this is a card that I definitely would go after and try to get yourself a copy because it's going to be very, very strong into the new format. So here's the extra deck, and if you're playing Phydraulis Harmonious, you're going to want to play 6 targets. If you only play 5, you can only activate and resolve 1. So you're going to want to play the 6, just so if you're in a grind game, you can actually be able to activate and resolve your other Phydraulis. Now, the only one, in my opinion, that really matters here is Malong. That's why I play 2, because you're going to get a non-targeting destruction, and then you're also going to be able to bounce a card, which is pretty crazy. The other ones are the other real targets that you can send, which is going to be Pegasus, Packbit, and Prima Donna. Prima Donna is going to be shuffling back a banish card. Packbit will spell trap a monster, and then Pegasus, if something's like popped off your field, right, then you can go ahead and spin something off the board, which is pretty nice too. But Phydraulis is such a broken card. You are locked into Synchro after, and you're giving up some pretty heavy spots in your extra deck just to be able to play it. So definitely a very limited card in terms of what can use it. But if you can, you're going to be in a very good spot. So as for Super Poly targets, which is the other big part of the extra deck, it's going to be Triffy Verdum. I like this card a lot. It's 3 dark monsters that came up a lot for me already, and I'm going to keep running it. Theseus just deals with so much in the Cool Tune matchup because it's any 2 tuners. So whatever you want to get rid of at the moment, you can just clear. And then you have Panzer Dragon, which is pretty cool into Doomsday. Definitely a more unique card to run into that matchup, and it's because it's going to take a dragon and a machine, which that deck is comprised of dragons and machines. So definitely a very cool target. And then you have Garura and Mud Dragon, which these are going to be your standard ones. And then for the, I guess, the real part of the extra deck, right, is going to be Dynamundo, SP, Dark, and Typhon. So I really like these as well, just because they're going to give you a little bit more flexibility with your plays. But basically, this is what we're looking at in terms of the extra deck for a deck that doesn't necessarily care too much about their extra deck. You might go into like SP or Dynamundo a lot, but like the other ones really don't matter too much. And, you know, the Dark Charmer is just there for extra advantage that you can find, or if you want to like get into like an SP line, this is the easier way to be able to do it. So definitely going to be a very fun deck in the new format, but also very potent because of the fact that this deck has a lot of very good matchups. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section. Check my Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Instagram. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.